And we are back. It is your host, Isaiah. Welcome to the O&B Puckcast, episode number 287, brought to you by FlyersNittyGritty.com, Summit Adjusters, Jim South Street, and featured on HockeyHotStove.com. Go to HockeyHotStove.com right now. You check it out. Scroll down, and you'll see a link. You'll see the insignia for the O&B Puckcast, and it'll link you to all of our YouTube shows. And, of course, we are streaming live tonight on YouTube. While you're there, if you can subscribe, give us a like. We really appreciate it. And, of course, hit that notification bell so you know the next time the O&B Puckcast is recording. We really do appreciate that. We're also streaming live tonight on X and on Facebook. So the Flyers have gone 1-3-1 since our last show. They are now 23-17-9 through 49 games. They are currently 3 points out of a playoff spot as we record. They have 7 games over 13 days headed toward the Olympic break in February. Overall, they've lost 7 of their last 10, which included a 6-game losing streak and, of course, the Mammoth disaster last night. Shep B, you're first out of the blocks. What's on your mind?
Oh, I'll just say this, and then I'll leave it for everybody else because I'm sure that a lot of people feel the same way. I think it's just frustration. I think mental lapses and stuff like that, and I'm sure we'll delve into it. So I don't want to drag it out any more than we have to.
You got it. The great Dan Silver joining us before a big trip.
Yeah, no, it feels like the team has kind of been steady for a lot of the year, and now the last few weeks have been kind of like a roller coaster. So we'll get into some of those reasons, and but I just hope we are not in the mushy middle again. We'll see.
Yeah, you got it. Also joining us from the Flyers Broadcast Network, you can catch him on X at Jason Myrt, M-Y-R-T on X. Jason Myrtetus, how are you, man?
I'm doing all right. I'm hanging in there. A little bit of an up and down experience of late, both on the ice and off the ice for me personally, but watching this game a long time, and I don't know that I've ever seen that, what happened in Utah. So the day after quickly becomes, what do you take from it and how do you react to it from a team standpoint and a coaching standpoint? What is the answer to that? I have no clue because I haven't seen one like that. And it was just so unexpected. And I had a whole plan for the podcast last night and I had to scrap it.
Yeah.
Because I had to try and make sense of something nonsensical that happened. We've seen teams rip defeat from the jaws of victory before, but not in that fashion. So it's still something I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, Chef.
So you said it on so many levels right there. Now, if you look at what happened the last night, literally up and when it was 4-2, I still felt like confidence. Is it a mental lapse or is it just, are they just showing, hey, they played above maybe their station all season, and then now this last 2 weeks caught up to them, and hopefully the break can get here sooner than later, and we can just stay in the mix here. But everybody's going to dogpile on Hathaway or Juleson and whatever it is, but there's got to be something else because it was too many. The lazy penalties that led it up, and I'm not just talking about the last couple of games. I'm talking about the losing streak there for a while. Too many lazy, penalties, to all this. And I was very hopeful because you're one of the few podcasts I listen to regularly, religiously. And I didn't want to, last 2 days, I didn't listen on purpose because I wanted to be able to speak to you untainted. But I know in the past you had said, hey, it's a tough losing streak. You're getting, it's hang in there. And other teams in the league, even the good ones, Avalanche, and you pointed out several, have gone through this spell where they've lost five games out of 7, and it's kind of similar to what the Flyers were going through. So I guess all things considered, what do you think happened this last week and more importantly last night?
Well, I mean, last night you got is on an island by itself, because you come out of the Vegas game, you break the streak. I saw a team play a game last night for 95% of it, enjoying playing again, and the way it finished, obviously, Hathaway has no idea that he's about to get his pocket picked, and his confidence is probably so minimal because he's got one goal this year that he just wants to get as close to. You think I just can't miss the net, right? And then the confluence of events that happen cost you the game and cost you the extra point in the standings. Again, I don't give a crap about the 1 point standings. Am I glad they have it? Sure. It could have meant something, maybe. We'll see. But overall, I mean, I'm still in that spot of, you want to throw the baby out with the bathwater when things are going bad. But every team in this league has gone through a spell worse than that 0-5-1 spell that the Flyers had. And some, including Vegas, multiple times, right? The Islanders, multiple times. Every team has gone through it. Carolina, even to some degree, has gone through it. Tampa started out 1-8 in their first 8 games. I think part of this, and this is a reality, and I know some people don't want to hear it. They're going to think it's excuse making, but I don't give a shit. It's not excuse making when you're playing this many games in a condensed schedule. Some of these games are shit to watch. They're horrible. They're just terrible to watch because the league has packed so much crap into a 5-pound bag that they're putting out a product because of this 20-day Olympic break that is it's not good. And you're having guys get hurt. Teams are suffering injuries at alarming levels and key players. And I think there's some key players that are pacing themselves because they're going to play for their country, which doesn't help. In a league where you already benefit a team for just getting to overtime, which ruins the last 5 minutes of the urgency, the last 5 minutes of a hockey game when you're tied in a game. It's like, let's just get to overtime, and then we'll pray for the second point. So it's a conflict. Like, I'm pissed off on a lot of levels.
Yeah.
With the game, with the way they played, because they played like crap. And it wasn't like they just lost games. They got their ass kicked by Tampa not once but twice. Now Tampa came in, they won 8 straight. They're hot as hell. Kucherov is steaming hot. I think he had 27 points in his 9-game point streak heading into those 2 games. Then you get Buffalo. Sometimes it's not who you play, it's when you play them. They're 13-2 in their prior 15. But you go to Pittsburgh, they lost 3 straight. And I know you're on the back. I don't care. And then Saturday against the Rangers, after they send out a note and you get just your ass kicked at home. That was unacceptable. But they rebounded in Vegas. And then to have that happen in Utah, when you have the only team that has been immune to the schedule and everything else on deck in Colorado. They're the only team. You can go through every team's schedule. And trust me, because I did it. The only team that's been immune to not having a streak or 2 or 3 to that degree like the Flyers had is Colorado. That's it. Everybody else has. As great as Dallas is, they're still in it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's because the league decides to stop for 20 days. And it happens. And the first thing to go when you're tired, it's not the legs, it's the mind. It's the first thing. Any athlete will tell you. It's when the dumb mistakes come in. And they look like they were playing their way out of it. But somehow they found a way to just flush that game straight down the toilet yesterday. And I'm befuddled by it. I'm befuddled by it. I'm frustrated because things are so tight. I'm getting notes from people going, they got to fire the coach. I'm going, don't even waste your breath. This is a team that went from November 1st to November 2nd without back-to-back regulation losses until this run.
Yep.
Don't you think the coach and the GM talk about how they're handling the top player in Mishkov? Guy said, the fact that he's playing on the left side, they got to get rid of their Tocchet. And I'm going, do you know what? Okay, can you explain to me why he wants him on the left side? But the guy doesn't have an answer. Do you know why he's on the left side? Because that's his natural side. And in the D zone, he's getting knocked off pucks like crazy on board battles on his backhand.
Yes.
That's why. That's why he's on the left side. And in the offensive zone, he doesn't play a side. He's a positionless offensive player, so he can play on the right side, and they can switch. They do all the time. But the reason he's listed on the left side is because you're getting rims on your backhand with D crashing on you, and because your strength isn't there this year. You see him getting knocked off pucks that you didn't see last year. That's just the reality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love Mishkov. I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to learn from all this.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're not seeing that reality that he's getting launched off pucks because he's on his backhand when he's on the right side in the D zone, then I don't know what you're watching. I thought he had a ton of jump last night. I would have liked to see him get more minutes in that situation. I thought Rick Tocchet could have recognized he had some jump in his legs, get him out there more. But I also understand you're in a situation where you got all these condensed games, and it's so many things that you can't put your finger on one thing. And the problem is you guys know what it's like when you have a dam and you're putting fingers in your holes, but there's too many holes sometimes. And that's the way it's been of late. But that's not an indictment on the thing as a whole. It's not. They're a different team than they were last year. I don't expect that kind of mistake out of Juleson in that spot. That was to take a penalty there beyond a mental error.
Yes.
I'd sit him the next game. I don't care if I have to bring up Isaiah to play the right side on the third pair. I have to sit him. I have to start making an example of these guys that are taking too many dumb penalties. That's
I was actually I was a top pair defenseman with my street hockey right side. Just like
Isaiah's got a good wrister. Probably will shoot more than Jamie Drysdale. So I just want to, we've talked. Sometimes the explanation is not quite as. It's obviously nuanced, but we've talked all year on this show about how a lot of what's contributed to this team's success are two things in my mind. One has been the play of Dan Vladar. The other has been the fact that our defense has been better than we've thought. Drysdale has been really good. Cam York has been really good this year. And Risto, after coming back, really good. Okay.
Team defense, too. I thought, the whole unit. Yep.
That's fine.
Yep.
But to me, those are some of the reasons why we've been playing really well. So let's look at, after the Maple Leafs game, let's look at what happens. We start Urson a Saturday afternoon against Tampa. I still don't really understand that decision. We start Urson in that game. We get absolutely waxed, 7-2. The next game, Vladar gets injured. Also, we're dealing with the Jamie Drysdale likely concussion. He was out. He came back. He wasn't quite as good. Risto's injured again. York has not been as good. For me, the key things that have made this team successful this year, Vladar, Drysdale, York, Risto, all of those things have not been there or have had kind of like subpar play during this entire spell. So, and the one game that we win is the one where Urson plays pretty good against a Vegas team. I don't think it's a coincidence that, that those are the things that have happened and now we're losing games. And I understand it's more nuanced than that and we can look at specific situations, but sometimes the answer is a little bit more simplistic. I mean, Vladar has been the MVP of this team. There is no doubt about it so far this year. And Urson's been horrible. And now we've been relying on him. The Rangers game was an abomination, but you start a goalie who literally gives up goals on the first 3 shots of the game. I don't understand. How are you supposed to play better under that circumstance? So for me, a lot of it comes down to Vladar and the injuries on defense, just to be quite honest.
But a lot of people, they won't say that's an excuse. Everybody deals with injuries, right?
But not in this situation where we've had one goalie who's been, our MVP, and the other goalie's been a complete disaster. And now we've got to rely on that goalie and another goalie who we know has been a disaster for basically when he's been in the NHL, plus the defensive issues. So, I mean, for me, maybe part of the team's confidence in how well they've been playing and the team defense comes from knowing that you've got a guy back there in Dan Vladar. And Jason, you would know more than anyone about how a good goalie can impact a team's confidence. But maybe when you look back and you see Urson or Kolosov, it just kind of changes your mentality a little bit.
Look, goaltending always bleeds forward. It's the term I use all the time. When you got a guy back there that's a human eraser, when you do make a mistake and bails you out, you can play the game free of mind. You're never going to generate offense in this league if you're playing scared. You're just not going to. And the nuance part of that is that the structure has been a massive issue. Like I put out several tweets with different screenshots of like them on a PK over pursuing the right point man with two guys in the Pittsburgh game, then a 2-on-1 down low back door. Like even in Coley's start in that game, two of those goals, he's got no chance in hell on. The Panarin goal and the other one, but then the clear-sighted shot.
Yeah,
I mean, that was absurd that he didn't stop that, right? I mean, he moved the glove out of the way. It was going to hit it, and then he moved it out of the way. But yeah, I mean, those are all part of the equation for sure. And the structure, really, the defensive strength that they had was being able to protect the middle of the ice with the box and one defensive system and really being predictable, having a predictable environment for their goaltender, for Dan Vladar. And when predictability did break down, he made unbelievable lateral saves. Like I was really taken back about how good he was laterally on low to high plays and cross below the dot cross ice pass scoring attempts, which are two of the most dangerous ones outside of a rebound or a tip that for a goalie to deal with. And he's been spectacular in that regard. But when the structure started breaking down, eventually the structure will bring the goalie down, or vice versa. If the goaltending is not good, then that'll disrupt the structure because then the players are trying to overcompensate. They have to be imperfect. They have to be in imperfect synergy, right, for it to work, because this league is so good. Players are so good. Mistakes, they will exploit you. And, you know, they got away with missing Forster for a while. And then we started to see this issue with they don't have a trigger. Too many passes, not enough shooters, not enough selfish shooters. And then you lose Brink. And like the whole next man up thing in sports is cute to me. Yeah, it's the next man up. It works for a game, maybe two. But eventually the next man up is not the man that was there before. And the trickle down effect is so pronounced. When you lose Drysdale, now you lose Risto again, who I have no faith can stay healthy at 31 after what his body has gone through. None. Why do I have no faith? Because it's year after year after year he can't stay healthy. And when he gets hurt, it's like I say it all the time, it's like he goes into witness protection. It starts day to day. It goes week to week. It's done for the year. And it's repeatedly happened. So like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So I'm not going to hold my breath. But when you start to get into backups and things like that, you're going to have a letdown. And when you look at some of those other team schedules that I referred to earlier, they were dealing with injuries at that time too. That's part of the reason some teams lost 7 out of 8. Flyers didn't have the injury bug in the beginning of the year. They were a relatively healthy team, and then all of a sudden it hit them. And then you start to pay the price. And in a 32-team league, frankly, there's just not enough talent to overcome it. Mm-hmm. I mean, can you guys find a good fourth line in the league this year? Anywhere? I mean, the days of Cizikas, Clutterbuck, and Martin are gone. No team's got a fourth line. None. Because you got 32 teams. There's not enough to be able to do that in a salary cap league. And yeah, maybe you'll be able to do it a little bit to some degree as the cap goes up. But fourth lines, there's not a single fourth line that pops out to me in the NHL. Like we used to see on a few teams before, and you just don't have that anymore. And look, I think when it comes to goaltending, I mean, 50% of the league doesn't even have starting goaltending, let alone backup goaltending. They just don't. It's remarkable.
That is one of the. I mean, that is one of the things about that struck me when I thought about why they're going through this. I think it's a confluence of the injuries, the lack of depth, not only with the Flyers, but throughout the league. And the Flyers are an emerging team that's still waiting on kids to backfill some of these spots where, hopefully 2-3 years down.
Wait, so the rebuild's not over? And this is the finished product? That's what
I didn't know that.
That's what I keep reading, that the rebuild's over and this is going to be the team. Like you see teams like Edmonton and Florida, like getting Gustav Forsling off waivers or Carter Verhaeghe, and it takes years and years of constant tweaking. You don't just have, your subtraction, drafting, and then there's your team. That's going to be it for the next decade. You're going to be a perennial contender. It doesn't work that way. People think it's too simplistic. It's constant tinkering. You're going to have to get into the playoffs and go, yeah, this part's good for the regular season, but we need this for the playoffs. Here's a prime example. Tampa.
Florida too.
Tampa goes in. They get waxed in the first round by John Tortorella's Columbus Blue Jackets team because Tortorella forced them to actually play with pace, and they hated playing with pace, right? He swept them. Would they do that all season? Did they go out and get pace? No. They went like a Barclay Goodrow and Blake Coleman.
Yeah.
And then they won 2 cups. They needed guys that could give them that element, bottom of the lineup guys. They already had the top guy. They needed the bottom of the lineup guys. They went out and they got them. That was the difference. So, like, it's hard to win in this league today. It really is. And it's going to take time. But people we live in the microwave world. You know, you put a pizza in the microwave, it's done in 2.5 minutes. It tastes like shit.
No.
But
the food analogies are killing the chef here. I hate it when they do that. But
yeah,
I know what you mean.
That's what people want. Like they want to go, oh, Mishkov's ruined. Well, with Mishkov, it's not about now. It's about the long play. And, you know, maybe if the Caps would have got more than 1 cup with Ovechkin, if somebody played the long play earlier, and it didn't take until Barry Trotz, because he played productive, point-driven hockey for a long time, didn't win anything until he learned how to play winning hockey. When Barry Trotz demanded it, then they won a cup. There's a difference in those two things.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Trotz definitely was kind of like the missing piece.
Well, he was like,
you know,
we're going to do it my way or you're not going to do it. You know what I mean? It's that simple.
So the question would be, are they – I mean, everybody's – I mean, you look, it's like doom and gloom. They're probably one of the few teams with, like, the least amount of losing streaks together like that. And they up until, like, the last 9-10 games, they were kind of being consistent in their play. Can they get back to that? I mean, because we look like, if you look at the Vegas game, it looked like, wow, they were up on their skates. They grinded it out. They were outgunned, outmatched, but they hung in there as a team and they won. And then you see the first period of the game yesterday. It was like, holy crap, this is the team I remembered 2 months ago when they were all humming on all cylinders. It's great to have Brink back, like you said, because – and the main thing I did notice, Jason, was all the shots they were taking in the first period, and they were getting rebounds. Like before in the past, it was a pass. They would just pass to somebody else. Nobody took the shots, but you had a lot of guys shooting the puck the first period. You think they got to recover from this, right? I mean, do you think that this is recoverable?
They don't have to.
Is it recoverable?
Look, I've talked to Rick Tocchet about this, and I've talked about this a ton on my podcast. There's going to be teams that are going to make the playoffs that are less talented than the teams that are with more talent. And it's all going to come down to this. In this year especially, it's how the coaching staff has the finger on the pulse and manages his group's energy in the 3 ways in which players exhaust it. And that's physical, mental, emotional. The coach that has the greatest sense of where his team at every given time, when to practice them hard, when to give them a day off, when to watch film to have full effect, and what type of film to watch at the right times is going to be the way to do it this year, because teams that don't do it right are going to fall by the wayside. There's going to be some good clubs that do that because they didn't handle this right, because this is different with a 20-day break. How teams come back from that break is going to be paramount. How teams finish the final 9 or 10 games into this break is going to be paramount. So all of those things are going to be part of the equation, and you just don't know. I think Tocchet's a guy that does have a good pulse on his team. You know, was a guy that was a player for a long time, coached on a lot of teams as an assistant, in particular in Pittsburgh, where they had a guy in that room in Crosby that was that liaison between the players and most times an assistant coach to get the message to the head coach of we need to lean in or we need to lean out here. So I think he's a guy that's gone through that. So, but how he handles it with this group with A lot of young guys that haven't gone through this, guys like Denver Barkey who are trying to figure out how you play 82 of these suckers against the best guys in the world, the best men in the world, and Mishkov's still learning that. Emil Andre's learning that. So there's a lot of that. That's going to be part of the equation for sure. How it plays out, I don't know. If they can get back to their structure, they can get back to relative health, and they can play much more disciplined. And that much more disciplined, I mean, the penalty thing is a real issue. Just taking too many. And you don't like putting a guy in a press box, especially when you're depleted with injuries. But you get to a point where you go, if I harp on something in a pregame and then you go ahead and do it in the game as a coach, that flips a coach out. Like, I guarantee Mishkov in that second period of the Vegas game sat for that 6.5, 7 minutes for that turnover, because Rick Tocchet before the game was probably like, guys, we got puck maintenance in the offense, blah, 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 blah. And then it happens. It's like, we just talked about this. Jesus Christ. We just talked about it. Yeah. And it happens. It'll drive you bananas as a coach. It was like your resounding message. This is the biggest thing we need to clean up. And then you go out and do it. It's like rubbing a coach's nose in dog shit. And he's going to react every time. And this isn't against Misha. It could be against anybody. And in this case, it's Juleson. Can't take a penalty there. Can't do it. I understand you want to back up your teammate. That goes a long way in the room. But there's a time and a place, and there was a game on the line that they needed to win. And you can't do it there.
I got you. Yeah, that's the frustration. You add all these things in, the injuries, the problems of backward goaltending, the power play. Not last night, notwithstanding. Let me just take a diversion of that. Jason, I saw some new things, some new ideas, some things they're doing on the power play that some other teams have had success with. And you ask yourself, man, I think the Flyers can do some of that, especially you got guys like Zegras. And if they're willing to shoot and connect these, willingness to shoot the puck instead of passing it out or passing it back into his own zone. I mean, there were some things. Did you notice some of the schematic things that they were trying to accomplish last night that seemed to work for them?
I mean, they've been talking about it ad nauseum, attacking the middle. Where does Trevor Zegras go? He's on the right flank. He's running a two-man game high. And he migrates right to the middle of the ice. And you watch the replay of the Brink goal. And you watch the second replay they show from behind Zegras. And as he migrates to the middle of the ice, what do you notice? Now, all of a sudden, you have a 5-player layered screen, 2 of which are your players, 3 of their players. Goalie's fighting tooth and nail to try and find this puck at release. Shooter's got to find a lane to the net, which Zegras does. Happens to be the right pad of the goaltender, of Amelka. And the rebound's right there for Bobby Brink to pound home because he's on the flank. Like, this isn't rocket science. Like, layered screens aren't rocket science, but if you just sit on the outside, you make it easy on the opposition. Just move to the middle. Watch the guys who do it. Go back to the Edmonton game. Edmonton's second goal that Bouchard scores. They're working the most pedestrian power play in the history of power play strategy, the umbrella. Right? It's not even a guy. There's not even a bumper in the umbrella. It's 2 guys in the middle staggered, and it's 3 guys working the top. Bouchard's the middle point man. McDavid in this instance is on the right. He'll switch a lot of times, go to the left, and then do that circle in. Not even doing that. McDavid on the right. They have the 3-man game. They're working the outside. They get it to McDavid. What does he do? He pops to the middle. Starts pressuring forward to the middle of the ice. Draws Hathaway over because he scares the crap out of everybody. He slides it over to Bouchard. Everybody is confluencing on the net. Bouchard, one-timer, they score. I mean, is this simple? We coach the umbrella in squirt. I'm talking 8 to 10-year-olds. That's how pedestrian of a power play that is. But because he attacks the middle and he moves inside the hash marks, it breaks it down. And then he puts a perfect pass to Bouchard, who's a right shot with a pass coming from the right side for the one-timer, and you get a goal. Those things, it's not complicated. Now, teams are going to start to try and take those away, and then you have to be able to adapt. If you're working everything high and it's working, what do you got to do? Now you can start to work down low because you're going to get more space there. So you have to be able to show different looks. And I would tell you that when a team has an effective power play out high and they start working down low, goalie hates it. Number one, they're playing below the bottom of the circle. That's where passes are coming from, or even worse, below the goal line, low to high play. When a goalie's got to look this way, he don't know what's over here. Because what's over here, you can look, it's there. I look again, now it's not there. Now it's over here. You don't know. You can't follow it. It's very difficult for a goalie in that situation, low to high plays. So, I mean, as a goalie, you're using, I'll get technical for a second. There's 4 windows. You're on your right post, you have your outside window. You have on your right post, number 2, looking over your left shoulder, but still on your right post. Other side, outside window, inside window. You have 4 windows that you're using. And you're constantly going like that to find your threats. And where they are, you're registering what handed stick they are. What hand is the guy right-handed or left-handed behind the net? Can he go behind the net if he's a left-hand shot and still center it angled? You have to assess all of that stuff as a goalie. The angle of the pass of what he's capable of because he's right-handed or left-handed goes into how you play the position. And, you know, they do much more giving the goalie the shot, the Flyers now, than trying to block the shot. Because blocking the shot a lot of times, like as a goalie, we would say, dude, just get out of the way. Give me the shot from the point every time. You getting in the way, I don't see release. Now I'm screwed. Just get out of the way. Just take a lane away. And now I'm playing half the net. It's easy. And that's changed a little bit with Tort's system. But, the power play, it's just been so inconsistent again. First 13 games, they had 20.7%. Then until midway through that losing skid, 12.6% in 33 games. Drive you crazy.
Yeah, frustrating.
It's killer. You know, last night, and just to wrap on that game, I thought 1972, it's not the same situation, but with 4 seconds left, the Flyers only needed a tie versus the Sabres. And they had a 2-0 lead that melded down to a 2-2 tie. And this guy named Jerry Mann came down the left wing. And I recall reading Gene Hart saying, well, 7 seconds left, 6 seconds left, and boom. He takes a shot, I don't know, 60 feet out, and it just Doug Favell waved at it. And the Flyers were out of the playoffs. They were that close. And it's like, it's not the same gravity, but it's kind of like the same empty feeling.
Yeah, but it is.
Yeah. And it's just, I thought of Jim Boomer Gordon from Sirius XM NHL. And I thought to myself, everybody had a little hand in watching this thing fall apart. And it's just like losers lose. In other words, until you find a way to lock these games down, you're going to have a loser mentality and you're going to choke the bit. You know, you have TK throwing that like quasi grenade back to Sanheim. He can't handle it right before the end of regulation.
Yeah, never.
Yeah, and it's just
in that situation. That's situational play. Never move the puck backwards in that spot. That's get the line and dump it.
I know
200 feet. You know, like never move the puck. I'm such not a fan in most situations of ever moving the puck backwards. And the thing's bouncing. People want to kill Sanheim on it. He was given a grenade with no pin. You know, and because it's bouncing, he's off balance and he gets turned. So I don't put a lot of that on him.
Yeah, I agree. Dan?
I mean, again, though, you know, this was a team that go 2 weeks back before the Vladar injury and some of the defense injuries. And we were talking about how resilient they were and how a lot of the behaviors had changed and how they were getting down early sometimes and not giving up like they had in years past, and that they have been making strides. So I guess for me, like, I don't want to try to be too reactive from that perspective, because I really liked what they were doing in terms of growth from a compete and resiliency standpoint earlier in the year. Like, I don't want to use 2 weeks of this to kind of like, oh, here we go again. Like, this team doesn't know how to win. They're non-resilient. They did know how to win up until some of these injuries happened. And so I don't want to get, I guess, too low on some of the stuff until we kind of see what happens when we get some of these guys back and Vladar's back. And I'm sure we'll get into it, Isaiah, but I'm still also trying to, you know, and I know, Jason, you're covering these guys every day. And so it's like, very in tune in what's going on. And not that you're not like this, but for me, a lot of it is more still of like, all right, how's the overall plan looking? And I hear someone like Scott Wheeler, who's like one of my favorite national prospect guys, saying that he thinks that the Flyers are the longest team, or the furthest away from being a real perennial cup contender of anyone in the league because of how disappointing our last drafts have been and kind of where we are in the mushy middle. And like, for me, like us and Vancouver, he said, are the two teams that are the most like that. So for me, it's sort of like, I'm also just want to keep that perspective in mind, where it's that stuff to me is more upsetting when I hear that than I guess like a specific thing last night where Noah Juleson punches someone in the face when he shouldn't have. And it's just like a different type of perspective. I don't have to be. It's your job, right? Every day you're so in it, and so that's just kind of like where I am. That I like some of the strides this team was taking earlier this year from the resiliency standpoint.
And that's not gone, Dan.
I like that.
It's not
part.
Gone. Yeah, I mean that is their identity. And look, when you play 82 games or you play 162 in baseball, you're going to have a period of time where you don't look like who you are. You know what I mean? It's human nature, and it's going to happen. And we can't paint like I asked people a few days ago, what, based on the losing skid and how they were playing, how much does that change your expectations? But then I asked people, I said, after they beat Vegas, I said, but consider it all. Like, remove the recency bias of the ugliness of the Ranger games or the losses against Tampa as being so recent and so fresh in your mind, and really think about and look at everything as a whole. Consider the fact that they didn't lose back-to-back games from November 1st and 2nd until this streak. Consider that they went down to Florida and won. Look at the games, where they go up 3-0 on Montreal, and the Montreal comes storming back and they still find a way to win. The resiliency games. Consider all of it and make a judgment on that. But our world right now is so strange because they want to crown somebody really fast and then tear them down just as quick. And like, I remember when Vladar came in and he was in tandem with Carter Hart. He had a few good games, and it was, we got to trade Carter Hart. He's the next guy. Until moments later, this guy stinks. Get the next guy. You know what I mean? It's like such lather, rinse, repeat of some of these guys on social media, this very vocal minority, which I think is just so attracted to misery. And people are starting to treat these people like they're experts because they can craft a tweet in 140 characters that sounds witty and, smart. But it all lacks nuance and it lacks reality. It's the people that tell me they should have traded Sean Couturier 2 years ago. And I had a guy email me and say, well, why is it on the fans to figure out how to trade Sean Couturier? I go, because how are you going to trade a player coming off back-to-back back surgeries in a flat cap world? Like, I have to live in reality. I have a world of preferences. I prefer to be 6'2". I'm 5'7". All right. I
saw that in a movie. You can actually get that done.
Big. Yeah, you got to get that Voltar machine.
Yeah, right.
On the boardwalk with Tom Hanks, right?
Yep.
I prefer that, but there's nobody that's going to come and save you. And another NHL GM, I've likened it to being in the ocean, in the middle of the ocean, where you can't see any land, and you're in the ocean and you're treading water and trying not to drown. And GM of Team X comes up in a boat. They go, "Oh, it looks like you're drowning, Mr. Philadelphia Flyer. Would you like me to save you?" And you're like, "Yeah, thank God you're here." When they don't throw you a life jacket, they throw you a manhole cover. And you're like, "Shit, this isn't going to keep me afloat. Nobody's going to bail you out." So you got to live in that reality. And look, I think it's convenient for, guys like Frank, who I respect, Saravalli, and other guys like Scott Wheeler. I think it's convenient to judge, try and judge all rebuilds on the same parameters. but they're not. And
No.
certainly not now. Like you couldn't rip the Flyers completely down to the studs. You couldn't, because when they would have had to been doing that was after a global pandemic, when a flat cap world came into place, and you just couldn't do it. It just wasn't possible to trade certain guys. Now you can have your decisions on Konechny, obviously. You had decisions you had to make on Risto. That was the guy that was the general manager before, or Dvorak lately, obviously. But you got to see how these play out. And what Wheeler doesn't know, what none of us know, is will Jetlachenko go back on to an arc? We know development's not a straight line, and that oftentimes you'll take a step back. I mean, people think that Tocchet ruined Mishkov because he's having a sophomore slump. I mean, I brought up about 8 different players, including the guy that we'll see tomorrow night. I mean, when you watch Nathan McKinnon tomorrow night, go look at his sophomore slump. He had 38 points in his second year in the NHL.
Yep.
See how good he is? He had 38 points.
Yeah, but
He had a huge slump. Bedard, Beniers. I mean, the sophomore slump's real. The league adjusts to you. And Mishkov exacerbated that coming in out of shape, which he's fully admitted, which I love that he fully admits and knows that he made a mistake. I have no worries about him because I know he's a competitor and I know he's got all that skill there. But people got to realize that. It's not the coach ruining him. People go, oh, well, just throw him out there more. That's not the way to help him. That's throwing him a manhole cover while he's drowning.
Yep.
And just to give a little bit of quick context for what Scott Wheeler was talking about, I don't think anyone is at least anyone who I think has a modicum of intelligence thinks that Mishkov is being ruined, right? It looks like a sophomore slump.
He looks like Nesbitt, and
what he's talking about, and I fully acknowledge that development can change quickly, right? But there's no denying that if you look at what Jetlachenko has done since being drafted and what you look at Jack Nesbitt has done since being drafted, compared to what I would say would be realistic expectations for a guy being drafted in those two spots, they've underperformed. Jetlachenko has underperformed. He's got 5 goals this year. He was put in some decent spots in the World Juniors. He was on the second power play unit. Like, he underperformed. He's
having a horrible year, Danny.
He's had a horrible year.
Yeah,
and I know that we know that Nesbitt's going to take a long time, right? He's a bigger guy. He's slower, but he's also had a fairly bad season from a output perspective, right? I'm not going to pretend that I've watched him play, but I just think that what Scott is saying is that, the Flyers, to make this rebuild really work, they're going to have to hit on some of these picks. And so far, they wasted some pretty high draft capital on Luchenko and Nesbitt, and early returns, I think it's fair to say on those two guys, they can change, are not great, is all I'm saying. Is what
like you with Nesbitt, I just don't have enough institutional knowledge. I have to rely on
I haven't watched him enough,
Yeah. But like with Luchenko, like last year, he was way ahead. And then this year, he's way behind. And I don't know if this is the case or not. I don't know if it plays a part in it. What I know is he didn't participate in development camp because he was hurt. He was late in training camp too. So I don't know if he's dealing with something or this is just a dip. I don't know. But last year it was like he was ahead of schedule and people thought he should have made the roster last year in the NHL, which I didn't agree with.
No.
But this is a big summer for him. He's got to go into that summer feeling healthy, training for a season, and I guess in a weird way, it's a hope that the reason he's having a down year is because he's dealing with something. He's a player that's always going to be predicated so much on his legs. And I know he was over the summer, it was a lower body issue. So I don't know how that's affected his season. I'm not following him day to day. But what I do know is you're right. The point totals in a draft +2 and being on the 4th line on the wing and Dale Hunter's your coach is alarming to me.
Yeah.
It's not concerning. It's alarming.
And let's not forget too, all the people we just talked about, they're not done developing. They're still under 21 years old, all of them.
Well, there's some guys too, like we're seeing this. Yeah. Sorry, Chef, real quick. We're seeing this.
No, that's okay.
This guy already has more points to the NHL. Well, it's not a race to the NHL. Okay. So like some guy gets there. Sometimes a 3rd round pick will get there before a 1st round pick, and he's not a 10th of the player the 1st round pick becomes.
Exactly.
because of body. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You got to look at it too. Like, how many players have been ruined by coming up too early, and they don't find any kind of success for 5 or 6 years down the line when they get away from the team that actually stunted their development to begin with.
Look at Jamie Drysdale.
Yeah.
He was
But
rushed.
we did put Lutsenko in the NHL right away. Like, let's not pretend that didn't happen.
Oh, I'm
like,
not. I agree with you there.
We immediately put him in the NHL. We didn't send him back to juniors right away. We saw a fast 18-year-old, 17-year-old who could play really well defensively, and we immediately put him in the NHL. So we didn't. Buffalo took more time with Konsta Helenius than we have with Jet Lutsenko. Like, let's just be clear about that,
And I think part of that, Dan, and this is something I disagreed with Torts on and told him. Torts was like a Jet Lutsenko PR machine. He really was. He just saw the speed and he just saw the speed and like the hockey IQ, and was clouded in the long game when it came to Jet Lutsenko, because he saw he had such a lack of speed in the middle too. Probably played a part in it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was something Torts and I disagreed on and discussed on a number of occasions off the mic.
Yeah,
definitely off mic.
Well, it's wants to play with pace. I love that game. I think that the thing I think the fans and I think the management maybe could do a little bit better job of is reframing where they're at and their approach. I mean, it's come up before, but I actually wrote a couple pieces with the help of a really good AI editor, and I proposed a scenario where today it came out where they could succeed. But for them to succeed, in going back to the other article I wrote, the first one is they have to really draft well. If they are going to hope and pray that maybe a 1D or 1C might become available, hey, that's great. You might have a Quinn Hughes, you might have a Jack Eichel situation, but maybe, as we talked about with Shane Malloy last year, what the Flyers have to do in the meantime is try and get as many middle of the lineup players developed, drafted, and get that a couple second line centers, a couple third line centers, and everybody. It's like the Vegas approach or the St. Louis Blues in 2019. And same thing with defense. You're not going to have the one, but you're not going to have a guy like Noah Juleson. So everybody's between like 2 and 4. And then if the opportunity comes up, then you strike.
Yep.
For that, that's the approach I think they're taking. And for that to work, they have to draft better than average. And I would say, since he's been in charge in, say, 2019, if you look at the record of Brent Flahr, it's not bad. It's not really good. And I don't think it's good enough. And Dan,
it's actually
I know
good in late rounds, underwhelming in early rounds. Right?
I
mean, they got a few fifth.
I could agree with that.
Cates is a 5th round pick. Like, that's a good pick. Right?
Yeah.
But
who's that you just said?
Noah Cates.
Well, that wasn't Brent Flahr, I don't think, but yeah.
That was Flahr with Chuck Fletcher.
Oh,
yeah, I mean,
okay.
I can, because I did send out a message and tweet or an X or whatever that looking at the last 10 years, the Flyers draft picks, I can just take 15 seconds. You got German Rupsov not in the NHL, Nolan Patrick not in the NHL, Frost.
Go one more year before that, Sam Morin.
Oh, no. Well, the year before that was Konechny and Provorov, and the year before that was Sanheim. So if and before that was Moran. But Rupsov not in the NHL, Patrick not in the NHL, Frost, Farabee not on the Flyers, Joel, I didn't forget his first name, O'Brien. Was it Joel O'Brien?
Jay
O'Brien, not in the NHL. Then you've got York and Forster, who I think are good NHLers. But then
who was the other first round pick? In the Jay O'Brien, that was
Farabee, right?
Farabee.
No.
Farabee.
St. Louis.
Because I'm going in reverse order. So then York and Forster, good. Gauthier not on the Flyers. Mishkov certainly is a possible stud. I think it's too early. I think I was being too early on Bonk and Lutsenko and Nesbitt, and Martone is a possible stud. But the problem is that what I said was there's some hits, there's some misses. But you're just digging yourself such a deep hole when you take a guy 2nd who isn't in the league anymore, and you take a guy 5th who refused to play for you, and you spent 2 top 12 picks recently on guys with underwhelming early returns. It's just you're really making your life difficult, especially when unless you luck into a pick like the Islanders did with Schaefer, where you win the lottery, you're just not really projected to be drafting top 5 again anytime soon. So it just makes your life difficult. It's certainly
like Colorado.
Yeah, right.
I mean, if they would have drafted number 1, they were the worst team in the NHL that year. Did you know, by like 28 points?
Colorado was?
Yeah.
They were so bad a few years in a row.
First of all, how were they that bad with McKinnon, Landeskog? I think they had Ryan O'Reilly at the time. I mean, they had some good players. And then Patrick Waugh left. Remember, he left in the very beginning of the season?
Right.
And they sucked so bad.
With McKinnon, they were that bad.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
The year they got
Wow.
McCarr. So the 26, I'll bring it up. The 26, let me just do it this way.
Oh, so they got jumped by a couple teams.
Oh, they were the worst team in the league. Joe Sakic had a coronary about that year and the standings because they fell to 4. So it's the 2016-17 season. Let me sort it by the entire league. They were the worst team in the league. They had 48 points. The second worst team was Vancouver at 69 points. They had minus 112 goal differential on that team.
Jeez.
I mean, how can that be possible, right? And that team had good players. And they end up losing out on the lottery, but they drafted McCarr. Like, think about that. They were leading a champion cause for lottery reform because of that. I'm bringing up their roster from that year right now. The 2016-17 Colorado Avalanche, 48 points. Jared Bednar was the coach, by the way. He took over for Patrick Waugh. Nathan McKinnon led the team with 53 points in 83 games, or 82 games. Matt Duchene was on that team. Tyson Barrie. Mikko Rantanen was on that team. Gabriel Landeskog. Grigori Genko. Jerome McGinley was on the freaking team. Eric Johnson, the number 1 overall pick. They were that bad. Nikita Zadorov was on the team. And I mean, is that crazy?
Yeah.
That is like the most bananas thing to me in the world. They were 21 points in the rears of the second worst team. That's hard to do.
Yeah. And it doesn't get, and what happened? It didn't guarantee that they were going to win a cup either. They had to wait like a little bit of
try
time.
And tank. They just sucked.
Yeah.
And then they got crappy luck if they got luck in the lottery, they had the number 1 pick. They weren't taking McCarr number 1 overall. No chance. He was a reach where he was taken.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can have skilled players and it still doesn't work out because they're too young and experienced too. So
Nolan Patrick.
Yeah,
we got Nolan Patrick that year, right? That was the same year. Yeah.
Yeah, that's 2017. I mean, think about that. I mean, Patrick all year was the consensus number 1 guy until he got hurt in March in Brandon. And I mean, then you find out you thought this guy would be prepared for the NHL game, having a family background and everything. First of all, he had the personality of a rock. He had the heart of the Scarecrow, or the Tin Man.
Tin Man.
I mean, he just had no desire to play or try or do anything. It was alarming. And that is a huge setback. Like you get lucky and get that number 2 pick, and that's what happens, dude. Out of the league. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if you had Heiskanen with Sanheim and York. I mean, think about that. I'm not even asking for McCarr.
And Cutter's still on the team. I mean, I know whatever. There's, maybe we wouldn't have wanted him because of the attitude stuff, but they're the ones who drafted him, and they used the number 5 pick on him, and he's gone. So
yeah. So where do we go from here, Jason, as we say hello to Anthony DiMarco from dailyfaceoff.com?
Oh, he's sitting down today.
Yeah. I can feel better, huh?
Yeah, trying to turn over a new leaf. But yeah, the back is I got a diagnosis, need a back specialist, but at least we know what the heck is going on back there. No pun intended.
You're walking around like Herman Munster. You're all stiff. You need to get to one of those stretch places.
Yeah, no, for sure. Probably get in the pool, change the way I work out. I think that's the big thing. I got to change the way I work out at my old age of 31.
That's what I did. I changed the way I worked out. I stopped.
That's the guy.
12-ounce curls, Jason. 12-ounce curls.
That's actually not true. The only thing that fixed my back, this is a true story. I told Anthony, he knows this.
No.
I for 5 years, I went on my honeymoon and we ended up in a Mexican shelter because of Hurricane Wilma. And I had wrenched my back before we went. And we slept on pool mats for 5 days in a elementary school in a fallout shelter in Mexico during Hurricane Wilma, Category 5 hurricane. My back was jacked when I got back. I had 2 surgeries. I was hanging upside down on inversion tables. I tried everything. One night I was just sitting downstairs in my house drunk, and a P90X commercial came on with that Tony guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, Dad, it fixes your box. It'll realign you. So I ordered it. Drunk as a skunk. I go to my orthopedic guy. He goes, you cannot do this because it's like plyometrics and jumping and stuff. No way. So it sat there for about 9 months. Then one day I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do it. And I did it. 4 weeks into it, I woke up on my stomach for the first time in 5 years. And I haven't had a back problem since.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yep.
No, it's a pretty nice story.
P90X, brother. This show is brought to you by P90X.
That's right.
I don't think
Either that or McKenzie method. Yeah. So I have my own back problems. So I guess the big question, Anthony, we can incorporate on you. Like we were talking about everything, and Anthony's got an idea what we were talking about. Like everybody's talking about the same thing. Like where do the Flyers go from here? Not just like for the rest of the season, which is kind of Anthony your territory, but like looking forward to like this rebuild. I was just saying to Jason that Flyers right now, unless they get the chance at a top pair of defensemen or number one center, they got to collect like middle of the lineup players and go with the depth approach. It's easier to acquire those players, and that makes it easier for you to strike, when an opportunity, comes along. So, and let me get to you there.
Yeah, look, obviously the two things that they're missing is a top pairing defenseman and a top line center, and two things that they don't really have in the organization right now as far as prospects go. You have all the talent that you can buy on the wings. I do think that you have some options in net, although maybe not as many as you'd like to, or as many as maybe you thought you had 2 years ago. And your defense looks solid, almost top to bottom, except for the fact at the very, very, very top, you're missing that crown jewel. So, on defense, I think if I was a betting man, I think between now and next season, you're going to see Andre moved out. And again, I just use this name because I think it makes sense from an availability standpoint and from a stylistic standpoint. I think a Bo and Byram come in. And I think that maybe you try and say, okay, this guy's been chomping at the bit to be a number one defenseman. Going back to his time with the Colorado Avalanche, has always been kind of pushed down the depth chart with the likes of either Taves or Makar, or now you have Dahlin playing in front of him. And I think that maybe you say, okay, we'll see if a Byram Drysdale pairing could work, and lean as a 1A, 1B pairing with Sanheim York. Up front, it's different, right? Because just finding a second line center these days is tough sledding. It's not like on the back end where maybe you could go out and you could find that Mackenzie Weegar type of guy who could kind of cosplay, if you will, as a number one defenseman. Centers are just so few and far between. And obviously everyone's talking about Robert Thomas. I mean, Robert Thomas, I think, is available for the right price, and that's not even necessarily coming from people I talk to with the Flyers. It's just league sources have indicated to me, and I don't think it's a revolutionary take or information, that Doug Armstrong is pretty much making him unavailable unless you're willing to pay through the nose. And that's because Doug Armstrong knows that Robert Thomas is a first line center who's 26 years of age on a really good contract. And if Doug Armstrong tomorrow were to say, hypothetically, you know what, he's on the block, you're probably going to have half the league in a boxing match against each other. And someone will play that exorbitant price. So, I mean, for me right now, and I know a lot of people are kind of talking about oh, they should go after Shane Wright or whatever. That's not kind of someone that I would be interested in. just because I think you need someone with more of like at least a top 6 pedigree. I don't think Shane Wright has even shown that at this point. So at this point, I think that you're going to probably see them be able to find a top 4 left shot guy to presumably pair long term with Jamie Drysdale. But obviously, finding a top 6 pivot is going to be an uphill battle here. And I think we're seeing the kind of landscape of the NHL as far as available centers are concerned.
Yeah, I mean that's the trick right now. If they could just start filling some of these spots, someone on the power play who can really shoot the puck or just be a quarterback back there, just better than what they have, because what they have is inadequate. So
yeah, and I think that a guy, again, not to beat a dead horse, but I think a Bowen Byram is someone that could fit that as well. Obviously plays, I believe, second power play time with the Buffalo Sabres, and look, I doubt Jarmo Kekalainen is itching to do anything right now with the way that the Sabres are playing. But, numerous left shot defensemen, 3 of which that need power play time, power not even, no pun intended, but power not even getting that time. So I just think Byram is a guy that probably makes sense long-term for the Flyers.
I mean, the place where I really put most of my optimism in this team in the long run is with Danny Briere, just because I just think that he's made so many sharp moves outside of the drafting, which we sort of talked about a little bit, and I think the verdict is still out. We do have Mishkov and Martone, who both look very promising, but other than that, I think from the trade perspective and like the adding players, I think Briere's done a fantastic job, and so that's where I sort of look and I'm like, all right, this is where I'm optimistic that even though we're probably not going to have another top 5 pick anytime soon, most likely, unless like Vladar's out for the year at some point here, which then anything could happen. But that just gives me optimism, because you look at so many, it's the different kinds of moves that Briere has made. Like, he's made the clever moves with multi-way team trades, like the Provorov trade, right? He's made the savvy moves where he waited out the rest of the league and pried Zegras out, right? He signed Vladar, and we talked about there were a lot of things to like about him. So I just think there's been a lot of moves that I really like that Briere has made. I'm not so sure about some of the other things, and in terms of some of the other voices in the room that I trust. I don't know if I would trust them as much as Briere, but I just think that Briere is someone you can put some confidence in to make good moves in a vacuum. I'm just not sure that sometimes with all the other voices in the room, it could be probably hard for him, but I love what he's done. So
he told me it took him 2 years to get the Zegras thing done.
Right. I mean,
those
that's
conversations went on for 2 years. That's almost crazy. The mechanism.
Yeah, just playing that kind of patience, and he just played the long game. And I think Briere has made so many good moves that's where my main area of confidence is. Because
one of my things, Danny, is that I think there's going to be a move that I don't know when, but a move that happens involving players that we are all going to be like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming. One of those franchise changing. Like, I don't want to liken it to Recchi getting Leclerc and Desjardins, because we know, I mean, they traded Mark Recchi after 128-point season. He was their leading scorer. And they get this defenseman in Desjardins and a throw-in kind of in Leclerc, and it turns out the way it did.
Yeah.
But I think they like to operate in clandestine fashion, much to Anthony DiMarco's chagrin sometimes.
Yeah, we didn't I remember I spoke to what my top source, I think it was like an hour or two before they landed Trevor Zegras. And, and I think the Flyers, or I guess in this case it's Danny Briere, because he's the one on the phone calls, is very aware of the general managers that he's dealing with. And maybe he operates that way because one of the final days of Chuck Fletcher being a general manager, a trade fell through at the finish line with the Detroit Red Wings because it got leaked to Elliot Friedman, of all people, on trade deadline day that they were making a deal for James Van Riemsdyk. And Steve Yzerman, being the psycho pants that he can be sometimes, said, nope, well, we're not going pull the
out.
trigger on this because it leaked. And you see a team like the Anaheim Ducks. Pat Verbeek is an Yzerman disciple. He spent years working in
Learned at his
Detroit,
knee.
and yeah, exactly. So I mean, I guess Dan, like I would agree. I think Briere has yet to make a bad trade. I mean, I don't count if someone thinks he overpaid for Eric Johnson for a 4th round pick like that. I don't count that. And I think that they're not just going to make a move to make a move. And I think that's why, like, when you hear what, like yesterday, you know, I was told, like, in not so many words, like Shane Wright's not a guy that's interesting. I think anyone at this point, like anyone is someone that the fans are going to clamor for. And Wright does come with a certain level of pedigree, and he does fit the age range and all that. But like that would be more of the same. And I could understand, like, oh well, why not wait? First of all, I'm not really sure how available Shane Wright really is. And more so than that, it's like, okay, yeah, like could you have not signed Dvorak and kept him and all that? But it's like at least Dvorak has proven to be to have success in a certain role with the Flyers. While I don't know if Shane Wright has proven to have done anything in this top 6 capacity with the Seattle Kraken. And that's not exactly the deepest team down the middle, right? Like he's contending with, okay, Matty Beniers, but Chandler Stevenson. So I just think, like, again, like Robert Thomas, I like Robert Thomas as a player 100%. But, you know, I had some people saying, like, just pay whatever it is. Well, like, I don't know if Robert Thomas is the guy that you pay whatever it is for. But at the same time, you have to strike while the iron is hot here. And the Flyers are entering probably an age window with some of their guys where, like, you have to start succeeding. And, like, you know, I was thinking about it the other day, like, if they were to miss the playoffs this year, it would be a massive miss in the way of, like, put it this way, if you are of the belief, which I think the Flyers are, that playoffs experience is a valuable part of development, if they were to miss the playoffs this year, I think that is going to be a major hit to the development of guys, specifically like Cam York, Jamie Drysdale, Trevor Zegras, if he was playing Tyson Forster, but a Bobby Brink. Like, these are guys who are not exactly young by any stretch, and you're approaching ages, or you're already in these ages where Owen Tippett, exactly, where you need to start being a bit battle tested here. And I mean, I guess
you need to see how they play in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's a different game. Like, you know this, the game is night and day. It's like decades ago hockey in the playoffs. It's like a freaking war. Every inch is contested. I got to see how Bobby Brink's going to handle that. I want to know how Cam York's going to handle that net front in the playoffs. Or a guy like Tippett who can fly. Is he going to shrink, or is he going to be a confident, creative play? You know, that's the constant evolution. But you got to get there. Like, you know the old story. Oh, Risto would be a pain in the ass in a 7-game series. The only problem is he never played in a 7-game series.
Yeah, it would be nice to actually see him in it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not banking on that.
Has he ever played 7 straight games, period? I forget.
Not the last couple of years, Danny.
Yeah, that's the thing about last night. You know, they can't even handle last night in that situation. You know, what are they going to do in the playoffs? You know, so they, you know, be really helpful to get them
That's
there.
an outlier, though. That is an outlier.
Yeah.
Last night's a freak of nature. It's like when Brodeur in the playoffs let in that goal that was shot wide. You know, did you ever see that gaff that he made? It was like an icing, and he went outside to the left of his net, and he tried to handle a puck, and he ended up putting it in his own net.
I think Patrick Waz let in that goal when he was playing the Devils in 2001. They're horrible, you know. But they come back and they win. Yeah. So, Jason, we're going to let you go. We've had a long. You got to jump.
One thing I want to say: happy birthday to Jason. Right, it's your birthday, wasn't it? Or yesterday or today?
Nope.
No.
March 30th.
Oh, March 30th. Oh,
top of things there, Chef.
I'm sorry. I
thought you had the honor of being the first one to wish me happy birthday.
Well, I don't want to be the last one, so that's good.
Thanks for joining us, Jason. Yes. It's always great having you on.
I'll see you Monday.
Appreciate it. Catch one Flyers daily.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
I'll catch you Monday.
Thank you, brother. Catch you next time. All right. So, and there's a couple deadlines as we're going to start to wrap up. There are a couple deadline kind of mini trade deadlines coming up. You got February 4th is the trade deadline before the Olympics. And then the schedule resumes on February 25th. And I guess February 25th to March 7th, there's that other little window of time. It's very interesting watching teams around the league make all these deals with those dates in mind. Anything cooking like around the league that's really significant, names, or just Flyer centric?
Yeah, well, obviously the Robert Thomas stuff has kind of like taken off a little bit. I think that's maybe like people just looking for like a sexy name, if you will. I know obviously my current colleague too, Dave Pagnotta, had a bit to say on the DFO Insider Edition regarding Shane Wright and whatnot. I think you're maybe starting to see a bit more separation around the league, and I feel like I say the same thing every time I come on here, but like you look at an Ottawa Senators and you kind of have to wonder like what's going to come of them, right? And what exactly is going to happen if James Reimer can give them decent goaltending. But if not, are they going to fall off a cliff? And does Steve Staios look to sell off a little bit? And I think in the Eastern Conference, more so than the Western Conference, is like you're kind of trying to figure out what teams are going to end up in that capacity. Like right now, it's what? It's the Columbus Blue Jackets that are in the basement, I believe. And, you know, I don't see many, or the New York Rangers, actually. So that's actually a good segue. So you look at Artemi Panarin, where I feel like you kind of got Groundhog Day a little bit and deja vu. Well, it may not Groundhog Day, but deja vu with the Rangers sending out that letter. It feels like just the other day where they did that back in 2018. Yep. And you wonder, like, Artemi Panarin, is he going to be the top rental available? And I would reckon, yes, he will be, especially now with Kiefer Sherwood off the market, heading to the San Jose Sharks. So I think, like, the Rangers and specifically Artemi Panarin is the name that I'm the most curious of as to, like, what team is going to step up and where does he ultimately end up, right? Because, yes, he is a winger, but once upon a time was arguably the best winger in the NHL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's going to be interesting where he goes. Could change the fortunes of the balance of power if the right team gets him. So
yeah. Like I always wonder about this, and maybe it's just because they lost Mitch Marner. But what about like the Toronto Maple Leafs? Like I don't know, they really have no assets to give. Like Easton Cowan is already playing a top six role for them. I'm not really too impressed with Ben Danford, the defenseman. I don't think he had a good showing at the World Juniors. And not many first-round picks to speak of, or second-round picks in general. But that's a team that you would think about, like, man, especially with William Nylander out with a groin injury, like, and Toronto's cooking right now. They're playing well. Seems like they're finally starting to buy back into whatever Craig Berube's selling. Poor Mark Savard, he gets canned right before Christmas, and seems to have turned their fortunes around. But Artemi Panarin certainly is going to be an interesting name to track.
Yeah, definitely. So, let's wrap it there. Let's get some final statements. Dan, well, why don't you go first tonight with any final thoughts about the Flyers and where you think they're headed?
I was muted. I always end up out of focus when my cat jumps in the frame because it like ends up on her, and then I'm out of focus. It's a whole thing. Like I said, so I'm going to be traveling the next little bit. Again, my whole thing, I'm just trying to view everything from 5,000 miles and where we're going. It would be nice to get in the playoffs this year and get some of these players some experience. So I think I would kind of like to see that. I'm gonna watch what goes on the rest of the year with some of these prospects we've got. I want to see how Martone finishes up the year in Michigan State. I want to see if Luchenko and Nesbitt can kind of pick it up a little bit. So I want to see how Bonk does the rest of the year in the AHL. He's kind of someone that people have totally forgotten about. So that's one thing I kind of want to watch a little bit here the rest of the way. And Carson Bjarnason too, because he's been better than I thought he might be in the AHL so far this year. So,
and people can catch you at DSilver88 on X and Bluesky.
Correct.
And
right.
Chef?
So I guess I would say keep. I think you see all these little trades around the league, minor ones, nothing really big. I think this is just people positioning themselves because, as we touched to with the, with the condensed schedule and the Olympics coming up, that guys are getting hurt and you need depth. I wouldn't be surprised if there were a couple more depth moves, from the Flyers, but I don't know. Maybe Anthony can talk about it more. So if he thinks that there's going to be any significance, and if it does, I don't know if it becomes before the Olympics or the short window after the Olympics. So, but hey, can't wait to keep talking about it. It's a little frustrating time right now to be a Flyers fan. If you want to argue with me about it, you can find me at Chef to Left B on Twitter. Chef to Left B.
You got it. Anthony, dailyfaceoff.com. Was it Tuesday and Friday your articles come out?
Yeah, exactly. So something dropping tomorrow. I'm still weighing my options. I think I know where I'm going to go with it. Obviously, it's on my Flyers day tomorrow. So sorry to disappoint everyone. But I think that for the most part, we're going to see, from a Flyers perspective, just kind of see what this team is made of a little bit. Because one thing that was interesting to me is that it feels like when the team is struggling, the Flyers brass is way more apt to just let them kind of dig out of their own, what. And, like, especially with the goaltending, like in a week, it felt like, okay, it went from, we're going to look at other options and consider it to, what, if this is what it's going to be, we're just going to deal with it. And I mean, it was funny, like one of my buddies today and I were just chatting and he's just like, who has the worst save percentage this year among any goalie, no matter the amount of games? It's Sam Ersson, apparently. I'm taking his word for it, so maybe he's incorrect there, but it's crazy. But going back to the beginning of last season, like among NHL regulars, is Sam Ersson like the worst goalie in the NHL? It might be getting to that territory. And look, like, I'm not one to blame goalies and whatnot, but look, goalies are part of the team, and you could say like, okay, it's on the Flyers management to get a better goalie. And again, I think that Alex Lyon should be a name that they should look at, if it were me. But I mean, it just goes to show that even last year, like, how bad was that team versus just how bad was their goaltending. And then you go back to 23-24, like the difference of pre-Carter Hart's absence to post-Carter Hart. And I think it was, I don't know. It's just, I don't want to dunk on anyone here, and I'm far from a professional athlete, but like, I'm just starting to wonder, like, how much has Sam Ersson's poor play affected this team over the last 24 months? Like, how significant has it actually been?
Yeah, I mean, in 9 appearances in the month of December, he had from December 13th until before the Vegas game, he had an .833 save percentage. So, I mean, it's hideous. So, yeah, there's got to be something done there. There's a lot of work to do, and it's going to take longer than people think. Anthony, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
And we hope to see you again. And
thanks, always good to have you.
And feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Take it easy, guys.
All right, man. Take care. All right. Okay, we're going to wrap it right there. I just wanted to thank some of the commenters, the people that commented. Linden 49, thank you very much for your comments tonight. Miller Brad, at Dan Knightley. Dan's one of our favorite guys. We see him on X. At Roar 152,000, and be brave. Change is possible. Okay, appreciate that. And just shout out to all these people that John Averson 2227. Thank you for chiming in. And
we had Nabil Raman 22 was asking about having Scott Wheeler on. That was a good comment. We'll look at that.
Yeah. We have some open dates, that's for sure. And also AOB 52. Beniers would be a great fit here. Yeah, absolutely would fit right in. Could really help. David's Hub 8839. Yeah. So thanks again for and at the helm outdoors. I don't agree overall. I do think though that Brent Flahr should maybe be looking over his shoulder along with Kim Dillabaugh. We talked about bad goaltending. I realize there's a talent gap there, but at some point, the goaltending has sunk this team for so long. We might have to take a look at that. So appreciate all your contributions tonight. So the Flyers play tomorrow night in Colorado. It's going to be a tough game, right? And then they have Saturday, Sunday off. They're back home against the Islanders. And then they go and they're back-to-back middle of the week next week. Columbus in Boston. Then they're back against the LA Kings on the 31st. And we'll be back on February 2nd. We will not have a show next week. And we look forward to talking to you at that time. So you can follow the O&B Puckcast on several podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify, iHeart, TuneIn, Amazon Audible. Of course, we're on YouTube and Facebook. Just plug in there O&B Puckcast and it should pop right up for you. And if you can follow or subscribe, whatever applies to your platform, we really do appreciate it. It helps move us up the charts when people are looking for Philadelphia Flyer podcast. So that's all we have for you tonight until February 2nd. Unless, of course, the Flyers make this incredible trade. We have to have a special show.
We love that.
But thanks for listening. And as always, take care.